神内流，双灭，西弗里测试。
Hey guys, it's Atomic and welcome back to my channel. As the rumors say, the best thing about Kamisato Ayato is his sister, Kamisato Ayaka. With her rerun banner on the horizon, the age-old question of should I pull or should I save is once again brought up. Today, we'll be exploring just how powerful Ayaka is, how she appreciated it over these 8 long months, and if she is truly worth your preciously saved up Primo Gems. Let's start with a rundown of Ayaka's character design. She has an alternate sprint just like Mona. It consumes less stamina than sprinting normally, and shrouds Ayaka in a fog of cryo. When Ayaka reappears, she will apply cryo to all nearby enemies and infuse her sword with cryo, making her attacks deal cryo damage. Her first Ascension passive makes it so that after using her elemental skill, her normal and charge attack damage is increased by 30%. Her second Ascension passive restores 10 stamina and gives Ayaka 18% cryo damage for 10 seconds if she applies cryo to an enemy when she reappears from her alternative sprint. Ayaka's elemental burst is the highlight of her kit and her main source of damage. It has a 20-second cooldown and an 80 energy cost, and should be the first talent to max on Ayaka. At talent level 10, her burst has a crazy 4,143% multiplier. Her burst is able to hit very consistently, especially against bigger, single enemies, even more so if said enemies are freezable as well. For example, in Abyss 412 Chamber 2 second half, you can easily hit all 3 of the Abyss Heralds thanks to the burst's large radius, which also helps keep them frozen to ensure they take maximum damage from itself. Ayaka's auto attacks, while not the highlight of her kit, also doesn't fall behind. They have very solid multipliers that's above most other sword users, and it's great at dealing with smaller enemies such as Hilichurls or Slimes not worth using her burst for. The best part of her normal attacks is her charge attack, which targets enemies in front of Ayaka with 3 quick strikes, and is able to hit floating enemies such as specters, making it really versatile and easy to use. Ayaka's elemental skill is probably the weakest part of her kit. It comes with a 10-second cooldown and has a very mediocre multiplier, which means it should be the last talent to be leveled. The skill itself deals damage in a circle around Ayaka and returns either 4 or 5 cryo particles after being cast. It serves no other purpose than to help recharge some energy for Ayaka and to proc her first passive. Now onto her Constellation. Constellation 1 makes it so whenever Ayaka's normal or charge attacks hit an enemy, there's a 50% chance that her elemental skill's cooldown will be reduced by 0.3 seconds, which helps Ayaka to recharge her burst faster. Her Constellation 2 adds 2 mini versions of her burst on the size of the original, the mini versions dealing 20% of the original's damage, a huge DPS increase, especially against bigger bosses where the small burst can fully hit. Constellation 3 gives her 3 burst levels, which is a huge DPS increase again, while Constellation 4 makes her burst shred 30% of enemies' defense percentage, another huge DPS increase. Constellation 5 gives Ayaka 3 skill levels, which is relatively useless, and finally, Constellation 6 makes it so that every 10 seconds, Ayaka's next charge attack damage is increased by 298%. This constellation is mostly useless, as the 10-second cooldown is too long to give Ayaka any meaningful DPS increase. If you want the most value, stop at either C2 or C4. Getting anything above C4 is purely to show your dedication to your cryo waifu, and does not provide her with any significant DPS or utility. Purchase at your own discretion. Moving on to Ayaka's best build. For her weapon, her banner weapon, the Mistsplitter Reforged, will easily be her best in slot. Ayaka can easily acquire all 3 stacks before casting her burst, maximizing her damage. Other 5-star options include the Primordial Jade Cutter and Summit Shaper, with Ayatos' banner weapon being okay as well. These 5-star weapons will all perform very similarly if you have the optimal substats for each. If you are more free to play, her best 4-star option will be the Eminona Kageuchi, followed by the Black Cliff Longsword, and finally, the Black Sword. For artifacts, you will want to use the 4-piece Splitter Strayer set, which gives up to a 40% crit rate bonus against frozen enemies. With Ayaka's burst able to keep enemies frozen throughout its entire duration, 4-piece Splitter Strayer is by far the best artifact set for Ayaka. For main stat, go the standard build of attack cryo crit damage. If you're using a weapon with crit rate or crit damage as a substat, you can consider using an attack percentage headpiece, which will work well too. For substats, you will want to stack as much crit damage and attack percentage as possible, also energy recharge up to 130%. Keep in mind that 4-piece Blizzard Strayer combined with Cryo Resonance can provide up to 50% crit rate already, meaning you shouldn't stack too much crit rate substats unless you want to overcrit. If you cannot avoid overcritting with 4-piece Blizzard Strayer due to you using a crit rate substat weapon, 2-piece Blizzard Strayer combined with either 2-piece Noblesse or a 2-piece 18% attack set works nicely for Ayaka as well. Do keep in mind though that the value 4-piece Blizzard Strayer provides with its 40% crit rate is vastly larger than whatever 18% attack or 20% burst damage provides. It is usually better to use 4-piece Blizzard Strayer and switch to a different weapon if your artifact substats allow. Now onto Ayaka's teams. Ayaka, as discussed previously, deals most of her damage with her burst while keeping enemies frozen in place, and thus, the most popular and easy to use team for Ayaka would be a freeze team consisting of Ayaka, a cryo support, a hydro support, and an anemo character. The role of the cryo support is to battery and buff Ayaka, the hydro support's role is to keep enemies frozen, and the anemo character helps cryo control enemies and shred their elemental resistances. I'm personally using Rosaria, Kokomi, and Sucrose here, but many other characters works well as well. You can swap Rosaria out with a Diona or Chongyun, Kokomi with another Hydro character like Xingqiu or Mona, and Sucrose with any animal character of your choice. Another team you can use with Ayaka would be a one-shot team consisting of Ayaka, Bennett, Mona, and an animal character. This team focuses on bursting down large enemies with a single Ayaka burst, and the setup takes quite a while to learn. Here's the correct combo for this team, and as you can see, it is quite difficult to perform consistently. The real pitfall of this team is how if it doesn't finish off the target within one Ayaka burst, you have nothing to battery Ayaka again, making this team extremely inconsistent to play and use. The last team here is a bit unorthodox. This team, which consists of Xiangling, Bennett, Ayaka, and an animal character, aims to take advantage of Ayaka's insane cryo application on her burst to help Xiangling perform former bolts on her burst. This team is quite inconsistent to play due to difficulties in recharging Ayaka's burst and Xiangling needing to forward melt, but is quite fun to use and powerful under the right circumstances. Let's now move on to the most important question. How does Ayaka fare in the Abyss nowadays, the hardest content of the game? With my fully built C1R1 Ayaka, floors 9 and 10 were a clean sweep. Floor 11 Chamber 3 was a small challenge, with Ayaka's auto attacks proving to be very valuable. With some freeze, she smashes the small rift towns apart. Due to my personal lack of animal characters beyond Sucrose and Sayu, the two Abyss System Mages and Mirror Maidens were quite annoying to fight, but with some good grouping and a freeze, they were easily eliminated. The first chamber of floor 12 is a cakewalk for Ayaka as well, the two Ruin Guards falling in short order to her burst. The next chamber proves to be a much tougher nut to crack, requiring intense grouping combined with great dodging. My Ayaka here damages all three Abyss Heralds to their shielded state with a single burst, but struggles to finish the chamber off, needing to constantly avoid attacks from the Heralds until her burst cooldown elapses. Chamber 3 is much easier, with me able to gather up the two Heralds, popping them once with a single burst, then using Ayaka's cryo to keep them permanently frozen, finishing this Abyss in style. My Ayaka was finishing chambers quickly as well, taking at most a full minute on average. Her burst was usually overkilling enemies, meaning that with correct play, even a free-to-play Ayaka with a 4-star weapon can get 36 stars in this Abyss. One of her design weaknesses is also shown through this Abyss. That is how she has no significant DPS output and elemental application during her off time, as seen in floor 12 where she struggles to break the Herald's shields until her burst comes back off cooldown. Overall, however, Ayaka has still remained very strong, her burst more than sufficient to carry any players for any kind of Abyss content. In summary, Ayaka is still a very powerful cryo DPS, and is very worth your hard-earned Primo Gems if you are lacking a cryo main DPS. Her burst is very simple to use and does lots of damage, while her teams are also very free-to-play friendly, only really needing 4-star characters to reach a high potential. Do keep in mind though that she is no Ganyu 2.0 and does not output nearly as much damage, at least theoretically, and their playstyles differs vastly with different strengths and weaknesses. At the end of the day, it's all about if you like the character and their playstyle. If you like them, just pull. Genshin is all about having fun, not always about meta or damage output. This is Atomic, and I'll see you guys the next time.